went from exponential potential to not being able to pay for the rental or even a bill from the...
As boxes were coming out and pieces and different cards were slowly consuming the table, I was just like, yes, this is one of the most insane games and I haven't even played it yet. And then with the cards, like you're writing a movie in your mind.
So that was Breakup Gaming Society contributing writer Fritz Goddard talking about his very first experience with the hit solo horror game, Final Girl. He was playing a scenario heavily based on the Terminator 2 movie. I've been playing one based on the Silent Hill video game for more than a year now. We put our respective nightmares on the table and compared notes before and after our games. That and more, coming up after the music.
Do they suck? Yeah, I think they better let it go. Shout of your roar, baby. Welcome to the murder show. It's the Mr. Fabulous Drifter, twisting your sister in the Sierra Vista.
This is episode 105 of Breakup Gaming Society, a podcast about board games, booze, and hip-hop. I'm your host, the Lord Chief Rocka, number 1, recording in Starkville, Colorado. Let's look at what you can expect this time out. Game of the week. Final Girl is back on the table, not just for replay value, but because I showed it to a non-tabletop buddy and he was sprung on sight. You're going to hear what happens as one dude in Wyoming struggles against a robot killer for the very first time, and another dude in Colorado reacquaints himself with the joys of finding a hook-handled bone hammer in a utility closet at just the right time. Drink of the week. I just spent Thanksgiving editing audio, putting up signs to sell my house, and trying to nurse myself back from a hideous and painful hematoma. Drinking was out of the question, so I'm just going to reflect for a few minutes on the absolute cauldron of the soul I'm going through right now. Apologies in advance. If you're not into it, things get very upbeat with Track of the Week. I'm going to show you one of the most delightful techno-hip-hop crossovers of the early 2000s, which teamed up the Quicksilver UK duo Mint Royale with Posdnous of De La Soul. Bit of news. And a little editorializing. Last week, I mailed a Breakup Gaming Society swag envelope to a bro who did a very bro thing for your humble host. This envelope contained a custom cocktail booklet, a Defiant Frog sticker made by my friends at Inkling Print Company, and Marvel Secret Wars number 11, which might be worth a few bucks if it grades out. I randomly pull 3 comics from my vintage 80s box for people who support the show in some way, and sometimes a gem pops up. I like connecting with people through the mail. A hand-printed envelope in the mailbox, to me, is an underrated way to ping people, especially when I think about the wider economies of communication. AI, in devaluing human language and thought, has massively spiked the value of verifiable and authentic one-to-one contact. So this is a long way of saying yes. Actual people sending each other cool stuff in the mail is the new Bitcoin, at least in my economy. If you agree, check my donate page and see how you can get an envelope of your own. Next up, Kat fights for her life in a shopping mall, and Heather takes the hammer to a deranged nurse in a mental health facility. It's Game of the Week.
I kicked it, I kicked it. Come on, you couldn't bang with this if your name was Genghis Khan.
Most of the time when you tell people you play solo board games, you are met with bemusement and pity. I think people understand in the abstract that there are all kinds of things that are cool to do with a group or by yourself. I mean, even sex has a pretty good solo mode. But for some reason, solo board gaming registers as a preference of the lost and the eccentric. But sometimes the light flips on and all your feverish elevator pitches for solo board gaming are vindicated. Friend of the show and occasional Breakup Gaming Society contributor Fritz Goddard visited Starkville this summer, and after several beers and a smoked chicken, he told me that out of all the games he's heard me discuss on the show, Final Girl was the one that intrigued him the most. So I got my base game and my Madness in the Dark module out, and we played a few turns. Within a few weeks, he had his own base game and the Killer from Tomorrow module, one of the dozens of movie-inspired scenarios you can take on in Final Girl. I didn't know a board game could do that, he told me later. So what follows are 2 interviews conducted around Halloween. Fritz was up in Wyoming with his Killer from Tomorrow movie set up for the very first time. I was here in Starkville. We each got our scenarios set up on our tables. The idea was to compare his very first look at the game with my umpteenth trip through the grimy halls of Wolf Asylum. It went like this. Hey, how you doing, fuckers? It's the Lord Chief Rocka number 1 from Breakup Gaming Society here on Discord tonight for a special Thursday night event with Breakup Gaming Society contributor and all-around swell chap, Fritz Goddard. How you doing, Fritz?
Yeah, I'm getting by.
Getting by what?
Getting by barely by the skin of my teeth in the high altitude of Laramie, Wyoming. Within the last like 2 weeks, it has become time for where I have to wear long underwear. So that's not something that I'm usually used to in October.
And well, long underwear is one of the many sacrifices you have to make, apparently, when you're in a graduate writing program, I guess.
Apparently, I did not know, they did not mention that in the application process.
I hope that those long undies or some kind of Kevlar ballistic weave, you're going to need them, because tonight, Fritz and I are going to play parallel remote games of the solo horror game Final Girl. Down here in Starkville, I have my module and base set up, which is Jesus Christ. I was going to call it a Scream in the Dark, but that's not what it's fucking called. I can't believe it. So I have the Wolf Asylum map set up with the villain it comes with, which is the Ratchet Lady. And basically in Final Girl, you pilot a young teen protagonist who is stuck into a classic slasher scenario, and it's an extremely difficult game where you have to manage a tough hand of action cards to try to save victims. And ultimately, I think across all boxes, no matter how many of the many movies you can get, it's always stop the killer or be stopped. Now, over in Wyoming, Fritz, tell us what's on your table.
So I'm at the Sunny Days Mall, and I'm fighting the Hunter, which is very Terminator-esque. Cyborg from the future. I have to keep it, not just the Final Girl alive, but also the Savior ally. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. This is the first time playing, so I'm excited.
Yeah, and so am I, because it's usually as a hobby gamer, when you tell people that you're really into these games, and furthermore, when you tell them you play solo, you get a lot of blank stares. I don't understand why. You can knit solo or knit with a club or run with friends or run by yourself. Even fucking sex has a good solo mode. But when people hear you play solo board games, they look at you like something's deeply wrong with you. But naturally, the fault's with them. Anyway, a couple of months ago, during summer, when Fritz came down here to the lab in Starkville, I set up Final Girl for him, and we drunkenly played a few rounds and did very badly. In the morning, and then in the month since, Fritz, you told me that the hook was set. This really got you kind of geeked, and I was really surprised to hear that you got your own movie, and talk to me about that.
Listening to the podcast, your Final Girl breakdown was so riveting, and I was immediately hooked from that. I was like, this game sounds insane. And then and I think I had mentioned that to you, and you're like, well, let's break it out and like take a look at it. And as boxes were coming out and pieces and different cards were slowly consuming the table, I was just like, yes, this is one of the most insane games and I haven't even played it yet. And then when you kind of like walked me through or played it, and I observed what was going on, like I was just like, so I was totally in it. It was like very immersive, and you're just there with the cards, like you're writing a movie in your mind as it's happening, and it was so much fun. So I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to get my own copy. And then it took a while. It took a while to get. I bought the base set, and then I was kind of waiting to see which villain, well, I guess, or monster hopped out at me. And at one point, I saw that there was a Terminator one, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds exactly the perfect way for me to get into it.
In Wolf Asylum, the famous thing that makes Wolf Asylum hard is the Ratchet Lady has zero upper limit on her health. Oh, and she has minions too. They're maniacs. They are mental patients who are under her thrall and follow you around. And then, of course, there are non-maniac mental patients all over the asylum that you have to try and save if you can before the ratchet lady gets to them. Your setup is quite different. You have to protect the kid.
Yes. Yeah. Protect the kid, and the kid has equal, same amount of hearts as the final girl. A little bit terrifying is that there is another. So the killer is called Mark V,
Okay.
and then there's also another killer that is currently off the board, but they said in the instructions, keep it close by for when it appears, and that's the Mark X. So if it's anything like Terminator 2, I'm assuming that that's probably going to be an even harder villain to kill once I potentially have defeated Mark 5.
So yeah, what I was waiting to hear is that you were going to get to have an older model Terminator on your side, like in T2, but maybe they flipped the script this time around.
Well, there is a Mark V ally card that is currently turned over with 4 action cubes. But then there's also, like, as I haven't fully grasped all the special rules, but there are cybernetic parts that must be retrieved and used to possibly repair a defeated Mark V. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, as there are with your version, and the one time that I played it, and even listening to what your podcast review of it. It was just all, I was like, okay, I couldn't even visualize it, and now I'm seeing all this stuff. Yeah, it's a little bit terrifying. Like, I think that it might be a short game for me on this first run.
There is a lot of detail to it and a lot of variance. And let's face it, once you getting all that stuff out on the box and a line, it's kind of a fussy bitch. And I would not expect anyone to, unless they have a high proclivity for just digesting almost anything you put in front of them, I wouldn't expect to get a game in your first night. The one thing that's important that'll really help you, and I hope you have in your setup, is that on the side, with the side that has the monster material on it and the side that has the map, there are 2 little fly sheets that have the specialized rules for that scenario. And I always play with both of those set up right under the core rules.
Yeah, I got them. Yeah.
One of the things, even when I didn't know what was going on, that I most loved when I was getting the cards out and reading the flavor text on the cards was it's very closely meshed in terms of theme and action. And they just had a very good sensibility for how to design a game that seems to have a lot of the sort of the fun side of slashing in it in terms of the humor and the grimness of it. And of course, that comes across in the asylum. There are tablets spread around the map that if you want to, excuse me, spend some of your time to do, you can just stuff them in your pocket, or you can just gobble them on the run and see what happens. Some of this stuff is just Tom and Jerry. I think there's one item in here you can get called a doctor's gown, and it gives you some special bonus or ability, and the flavor text on the top just says, "I hate myself."
There's the little the text, the ones that I've read so far, like I'm like, okay, yeah, this is it's a game that deals with a lot of death, but it just definitely does not take itself too seriously. Seems very fun.
Mm-hmm. And there are very sort of splatter Tom and Jerry moments. There's an event card in here that brings a hospital gurney onto the map, and you can use it to save extra victims. But if you're in a jam, you can like sprint and shove it into an enemy, killing the enemies, but it will also kill the victims.
Amazing.
Hey, we're going to get to the exit. No, fuck it. Here, eat this.
Yeah, one of the special meeples is Bart the mall cop. So He like follows you around during the action phase, I guess, and then is confronted by the killer. It takes two hits off the killer, but then sorry, Bart, you are long gone.
Mm-hmm. And so talk to me. So it sounds like do you have it all set up? Are you like ready to start fumbling through?
I do, yeah. I have it all set up from as best as I can figure out from the location cards and the killer cards. Craig Mack loaded on the CD player, and we're gonna be giving this a try.
And so do you want to talk to me about the other setup stuff you drew? Here's what's going on my end. So last year when I got this out, and this is one of the things that makes this cool for me, is that this is one of the ones from last year that I said I'm not packing this away to forget about it in the spare room. I've kept it out on the chairs. Like I am going to get my teeth in this again because it's fun, and I didn't want to forget it in lieu of the 2025 stuff I've been playing. But I finally beat it last year with the Veronica character. So this time I am Heather. Once you get your map out, you'll draw a setup card. I drew the one called Bingo Night, which crams an amazing amount of victims into the common like social gathering room in the middle of the asylum. And then there's one thing that concerns me. You know how I was talking about strategy, and it's very important to save a victim if you can, find a weapon. And in my experience, if you haven't made a major attack on the Ratchet Lady by turn 3 or 4, you're in big trouble. So I'm looking at the 3 places where there are items, and to start, there's one item on top for you to look at. No weapons, not one.
Oh no! That's not great. Yeah, the weapons that I have up on mine are a knife, a titanium bat, and cigarettes. Which, I mean, fighting a Terminator, I don't think any of those are going to be especially helpful unless they've done some programming like proclivity to emphysema or something. I think that I'm pretty much screwed here.
Well, as you'll find, there's a time and a place for everything. Within some of these funny little items, even though they don't cause damage, will buy you time or let you subtly tilt the board in your favor in other ways. I did pretty good last time with a trash can lid, and it soaked up 2 hits that
Nice.
I used it as a shield, and it kept me in the game long enough to deliver the blow I needed to. So, so there we go. Right now, we have parallel games of Wolf Asylum and the Ratchet Lady module sitting on the table at the lab in Starkville, and way up north in Wyoming, gonna do some Terminator shit. And dude, hit me up with questions or whatever, but if you just start walking the steps, you're just in for a 1 hour first turn. And so if you get in more, if you have questions, hit me up. I'm gonna see if Heather can live up to the legend that was Veronica.
All right. Well, Godspeed. I hope you are able to destroy Nurse Ratchet pretty quickly.
Absolutely. I'm going to do my best with there's a first aid kit, a doctor's bag, and pills. So I don't know if I'm going to win, but I'm going to be hot as shit.
Nice.
All right, brother. Well, good luck to you. Fucking melt that Terminator down. And yeah, let's check in later in the evening and see what we learned.
Sounds like a plan. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Fritz is such a beautiful, anachronistic kind of dude. Before we started our games, he sent me a pic of a Craig Mack CD from 1994 that he was about to throw in his boombox. This is not a retro hipster pose. He's the kind of dude who genuinely gets more joy from the pages of a yellowed secondhand paperback than he does from being online. I think we both feel, in our own ways, misplaced in this century and susceptible to the charms of physical media, like spending an evening getting your ass absolutely kicked in a shopping mall while being hunted by a robotic assassin. A few nights after our pregame call, I checked back in with Fritz to see how his first battle in Sunnyvale Mall went. Did his attraction to the concept survive the level of detail and general difficulty of surviving as a final girl? Here's the audio. Let's find out. Okay, so last time we left this Thursday night, me, the Lord Chief Rocket #1 was in Starkville, hanging out Final Girl Madness in the Dark solo horror game for the first time in a year. I played it probably 15, 16 times last year. Loved it, but then moved on because I had to write about something other than that game. Time passes, and our friend on the line and contributing writer, Fritz Goddard, decides that he wants in on this. What's up, Fritz?
Hey, thanks for letting me in. Like, thanks for sharing Final Girl. Board gaming noob like me, I had no idea that these kind of solo play games even existed for Breakup Gaming Society.
Yeah, man. And that's kind of the first thing I want to talk about, and to just let everybody cue everybody back in on this project. Thursday, it is now Sunday, October 26th. Thursday night, we each set up our board. Fritz opted for the Terminator movie.
Oh, The Killer from Tomorrow.
Yeah, man. That's what I love about killers, is when they stay in tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the best place for them.
That's right. Keep all mine.
Yeah.
So basically, what happened over the last 3 days? Okay, let's talk about the first wonderful fucking thing. And that is, one of the best things as a hobby player is when you've put the right title in front of the right person at the right time. And there's that spark where they just like, they're not playing it to humor you. They're like, oh no, this is badass. And you realize you've found the conversion. I think, at least for this part of your tabletop career, I think we may have uncovered in you the heart of a purebred Ameritrash game player.
Yeah, hey, if that's the title that means I love this game, then absolutely, sign me up for all the Ameritrash you got.
Well, this is pure pedal to the metal Ameritrash, because one of the things that we can talk about this makes it so wild is the amount of ups and downs, the froth of panic you get when things go haywire for 3 turns, and then a good roll or a clever move you see, which realizes not only is it not over, but you're still in it. And a lot of that is driven by Ameritrash stuff, surprise events, lots of combat and dice. So I think maybe the day comes where a Euro game really turns you on. But I'm calling you definitely an Ameritrash player in becoming. And
Okay.
and also, so in the time since we talked Thursday, bro, I've played this game 7 times.
Oh my gosh, nice.
It was better than nice. This is the part where you're taking an interest in it benefited me, bro, because I was like, oh God, I don't want to set this fucking thing up again. Then it started running, and I remember the thrill of it. And also, I remembered that I wasn't as good at it or as knowledgeable about it as I thought. Dude, I had to take myself to boot camp. I had to post 2 questions on Board Game Geek, reread several rules, and if it's any comfort, here I am on game 20, still getting important little rules wrong. So remember to be patient with yourself about that.
Yeah, there was definitely a steep learning curve for me too, where I think I played maybe like the first 2 turns that took like expand from Thursday. I think I finished the second turn on Friday night, and then I realized I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like not even doing like the killer's first like basic move. I was just grabbing the terror card and going. I was like, all right, so I got a couple freebies there to start off. Any success that I have in the game probably came from that woeful misinterpretation of the rules.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that I found myself doing is when I get excited, like when I really know what I want to do next, I'll forget to execute the entirety of a card. This shit happens. And
Yeah,
of course, and as I was cycling it, it was happening a lot less. And you were up there basically in the middle of the T2 scenario. I was down here doing the great value Silent Hill thing. I found out 2 things. A, I was rusty. B, fucking love this game, dude. There's so much in it. There's so much fucking surprise. It's such a minute-to-minute roller coaster. And one of the things I learned is the repetitions. You start to see more pockets where you have a lot more space to play than you thought you had. And I came up with some devious little tactics. I won once. I wanted to say that I played the Heather final girl, Heather, for the first time. And I think on game 4 or 5, I won with some pretty sick moves at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Heather gets a huge combat bonus if she saves 5 victims. So I just, fourth game, I'm like, I'm playing this with a Veronica mindset. I'm Heather today. And so I just saved, I let every bad thing that happened, I just let it happen. And I just kept playing movement cards and hustled all these victims out the exit door. And then, which turned me into a combat powerhouse, all right? And by that time, I kept getting like little hits and little hits and little hits. And here's an important little rule to remember. When you get down to your last hit point, you get an extra die. It's your adrenaline die.
Yeah. That was a big win for me. Yeah. I was like, okay, all right, completely back in the game for another few turns. But ultimately it did not matter. But that was like a good little perk.
Yeah. I was able to control my horror track while I was moving around. So I had the extra die from having a low horror track. So all of a sudden, I was pretty much, if anybody breathed on me, I was going to die. But I had 4 dice and a lot of cards. I'm like, you're going to feel me before I go. Turned out I could play those cards in such a sequence. So if I kept my health low and didn't lose that die, that all of a sudden, long story short, on death's doorstep, I loaded up on a double search card, rifled the room, got the garbage can lid in one hand to stop damage, and then my favorite instrument of death, which is the hook-handled bone hammer, which is really destructive. The ratchet lady drew this thing where you could not deal any damage to her until you cleaned out all her minions. There are like 5 of them on the board. And I'm like, oh no.
Nice.
And then I just got that weird, in a parallel to the source material, this moment of calm. And I was like, I have the hammer in the garbage can. I don't have to chase these fucker down. I went right to the biggest room, right in the middle. Come on. And I just tapped that garbage can lid with the hammer, and they all came to me. And I just sat there, and I used these alternating card combos with 1 hit point to just let the garbage can lid all the damage. And then I'd swing that. I was just sitting there in the room while they ran in from all these exits, just pulping their heads one after the other. And then in like 2 turns, I'd cleaned out all the minions. Almost all the victims were gone. And then I was able to walk into the next room and just beat the ratchet lady to her knees.
Amazing.
Talk to me a little bit about the action on your side. I know you're still figuring out the mechanics and the steps, but you're the Sarah Connor, right?
Right. Yeah. This is Sarah Connors is Cat. So I was Cat going through this. And the thing is like, so you have to protect the savior. And so if the savior is still in the mall, the hunter is going to target them, and they don't even give a fuck about you as the final girl. They'll just like walk right past you to get to the savior, which I was like, okay, so that saved me a few times. But then part that sucks is that the savior is a little teenage asshole who you have to build trust with. Those cards, they cost a couple time, and the dice have to be in your favor. And after every play, or after what's the last part of it, the utility phase or something like that, you draw one of the savior's cards. And it tells you like what to do based on like how much trust you have with him. And there was one point where I finally got the savior. We moved into a room. I searched. I got a shotgun. The hunter's coming like right towards us. I'm like, all right, we are ready to go. This is going to be, I'm ready to fight. Draw the savior card. And it's like, savior discards one of your items because he does not trust you. And so I just lost the shotgun, and I'm like cornered now. and I have to like start like redo the entire plan. It is like, I did not sit down. I was just like pacing around the board because I was like, I don't want to sit down. Like I want to be intense and like have this feeling. So great time. So much fun.
Yeah, I like to stalk the board too. I have a stool like will sit and is right in back of me, and I'll like be in a rage because I keep bumping into it, and I'll just put it on the other side of the room because I just want to stalk that table. It delivers the current of excitement, man. So it's interesting. So in the madness in the dark scenario, the final girl is on her own. The only thing that makes it interesting in terms of third parties that isn't you or the antagonist is that there are maniacs on the board. These are mental patients who are in Ratchet Lady's thrall, who can follow you around, slow you down, and sometimes turn vicious. And then the board is littered with innocent victims. These are kids in there, under some kind of psychological regimen, and there are a lot of them. And it presents you with the choice always of trying to get them out of the way, which gives you a bonus, because if you don't, then the Ratchet Lady has a lot of people to kill, and every time she does it, your bloodlust track gets out of control, and the game will get out of your hands. But here's the thing: you don't have to necessarily do anything. I think it even says like verbatim in the rule book, they're like, the victims are dumb.
The panic phase is not fun.
Between the events and like victims running around and finding stuff and you have to almost think yourself into a new pocket of existence, and okay, that plan's not going to work. What am I going to do now? Because now I'm in this corner, and the fucking thing that I walked all the way across the board for is pointless. And
yeah.
In the short term, it feels really bad, but I think when you learn to ride that stuff out, you realize that the whole game, it's going to deal you a series of blows, then two really happy pieces of luck or opportunity, and then one more bad thing, then three more good things, and you got to take the long view. And I think writing out those things, especially as you're learning, is important because it gives you a far better idea of how to run a turn properly, and gives you a better idea of just what all those cards can do, because some are useless 3/4 of the game, but if you find yourself standing on the right space of the board, the right time, all of a sudden a little dopey card becomes the most powerful thing in the world. Last year, it took me 15-ish tries to get my first win. I notched it on 4.
Nice.
And picked it up because, well, Heather's a killer. If you save a lot of victims early, she gets this combat ability that's really gross, and she can just go ham. And even if you're low on health, if it's coming down to the last hit points between you and the Ratchet Lady, and this is a combo you will find because I think it's in your cards too.
Mm-hmm.
If you save up your stuff and you manage to walk into the room and you've got one big attack card like a Furious Strike and a Retaliate card, and you're holding a weapon, you walk in there on one turn, attack the villain for as much damage as you can do. And then instead of moving, you stay in that room because they're programmed, at least they are on my board, to immediately tee off on you first thing, at which point you play Retaliate and hit them for the same amount of damage. And sometimes that 2-card sequence alone can wipe them out.
Yeah, that Retaliate card is worth every second of time that you spend on it. That was super valuable. The thing that with this one is that once you get that final card, what is it called? Like the tear card, and the Mark X comes on the board. Their beginning sequence is like gain a heart, target final girl, move 2 spaces and attack. And so it's just like, if you don't attack, like you will be destroyed. And like I got it down to like the killer's health to about like 9 hearts. That was as close as I got. And it was like, I was running on fumes at that point. I think I was using like the extra dice. It was, yeah, it was just a matter of time. Like I was just like, oh, I'm going to keep playing this because like I'm enjoying it, but there's no chance that I could possibly win this game.
Yeah, I in one of, I played again, I don't know, 5 to 7 games since we last spoke, and I did the same thing. I hit the mid gamer like I'm screwed. I was mad.
Yeah.
I'm going to touch this fucking Ratchet Lady once, and I played long enough so I could go and get a scalpel. Underrated weapon, by the way. I always looked through it before, but it's actually really dangerous. I did manage to run up on the Ratchet Lady once and give her not $1.50, probably, maybe just a 50, but she got touched. It was nice. So there's something interesting you said, because, I've never played any other of these movies. There's tons of them, and I haven't seen your set. So in my game, you build up your bonus, and I think that means by you accrue enough stuff to flip your card over and unlock your heroine's powers, right?
Yes.
How you do that in my game is by saving victims. Now, you don't have to win trust with them. You just have to basically pull them through rooms. And if your movement's good enough, once you get to an exit, you can just pitch them out the door. So you're saved, bye-bye, I'm fucking busy. So what is the mechanism by which your character builds trust with John Connor Jr.?
Well, there's also the victims too that I can save. So you can...
there's the savior plus victims running around? Interesting. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so you can save the victims, and you don't need anything. But in order to get the saver out of there, like, you do have to build up to get all the way to like fully trust before they'll leave. I remember even like kind of joking with you, like after we had recorded on Thursday night, like my items, one of them was like a pack of cigarettes, and I was like, oh, that's a dumb item to have. I'll definitely not try to get that. But then I looked at the card. And it's like, if you have this and you're in the same spot as the savior, it bumps you up like 2 trust points. And I was like, oh, damn, I wish I would have had that. But yeah, so you have to get, there's cards, action cards that are like build trust. And you have the savior card, which has John Connor's health on it. And then it has the trust levels. And start off with like no trust. And every savior card that you draw at the end of the turn, the no trust one just completely fucks you.
Obviously, when you feel threatened in the game, the first items you look for are always weapons. What do you weapons kill? But there are a lot of items in there that don't look flashy, but do these subtle things that change the game in big ways. And you start thinking about those weird prisoner's dilemmas and all those psychological quirks that make us approach things in what feel like instinctual but deeply irrational ways. And one of them was, of course, the way I typically played, teaching the game to myself, because I don't want to run and get a strategy guide. I want to get my money's worth and learn the hard way. And there's nothing more dispiriting as when you're starting on turn 1 with your basic cards, and you play a card and you don't get any successes, and you play another card, you don't get any successes. All of a sudden, because you got psychologically invested and upset because you want to get something done because the killer's here now and shit's going to start going wrong now, and you've drained off 4 cards and you've achieved nothing, and also because of doing that, you've taken 3 or 4 time penalties, and now you have no hand and no time to replenish your hand, and it's the first turn. And so when I was looking up rules during learning this last summer, I saw a strategy that I kind of filed away in my head. And it's, to me, completely counterintuitive because, you're anxious and those cards are the only thing you got. So, you don't want to just churn them. But it was a strategy some kid recommended. And it was basically you more or less dump your hand and don't get very much done for the first 2 or 3 turns so that you can build up a fucking super turn. And I tried it my last game and it was very interesting.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like, yeah, I think I texted you. It just like in a state of rage, just like fuck this game. And that was definitely right after like after the first 2 turns or something like that, where I was playing and exhausted all of my cards, had no time, and I was just like, well, I'm completely screwed. And I was just like, I'm just like a sitting duck and I'm going to get destroyed like 3 turns into this game. So after that, like I was able to kind of like turn a corner and kind of like, okay, get in like a flow of playing and kind of being able to like run the time down on certain hands, and then other hands do less to get more stuff in the next hand.
Yep. Getting this back on the table because of your new fascination in it has showed me so much more in this game that I didn't see. So this has been one of the better 4 days or 3 days I've had as a board gamer.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that I could reciprocate your interest that you instilled with me by helping you rediscover the game.
Absolutely. There are little tricks I'm learning. I'm like, because again, after you stop focusing on just weapons and attacking, you find yourself in a position where you can't do either, and this little dumb card that you always thought was really expensive for what it did, and you look at it like, no, this is really powerful. And you realize that even when everything's going sideways on fire, there are lots of interesting open and closed windows of decision space that this game offers you. And because of this 72-hour period, I'm thinking about my next box, man. At the rate I was trying to replay this and learn new games, I was like, this one box I have will keep me entertained for years. But dude, I have to tell you, because I automatically go for whatever's under discussed and not popular, I'm thinking about pulling the trigger on the movie based on the Strangers, the home invasion thing.
Okay. Nice.
I think it's called Knock on the Door or something, or is that a movie? I can't fucking remember. But the hitch in this movie is, of course, there are 3 killers in the house, and you got to stop them all. And I think they each have their own like moves or conditions. And you don't just go run into a closet and find a weapon. You have to assemble pieces and build improvised weapons.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds really fun. Like just knowing having played the one that you have when I visited you in Starkville and playing this one, like one of the things that's so cool about it is just like the whole, and this might just be like the definition of Ameritrash, but it feels cinematic when you're doing it. You like all of the scenarios and stuff, like you can feel it playing out, and many times had images of T2 running through my head as I was making these plays. And so like I have not seen the Strangers movie. I have not seen, like, horror is not my bread and butter, but I'm down. Like whatever they put out, like I'm gonna be like, okay, this is gonna be cool. Even if I just watch a trailer for it, I feel like I can really enrich the game based on brief images of it.
And I totally identify with that because I'm not necessarily a big horror fan either, but just by virtue of my age and being alive, as long as I have a lot of cultural reference points with these movies. I mean, you're not going to get through the 80s as a teen and not see The Thing once. It's just not going to happen. There wasn't fucking 800 things to stream. You're going to go see The Thing and freak out. Great things about a heavily Ameritrash style design is that they're very evocative and very cinematic. And you get these little junctures where you do slip into quasi role play mindset. I mean, like when I run into a room and get a victim and manage to move again and get them out, I'm like, come with me, children, come with me. and or when you're executing all the panic rolls, I'm invested. I'm like, run, you motherfuckers, run.
Yeah.
Don't run that way. Oh God.
Yeah.
You're going to die. And so, yeah, I'm glad you see in it some of what I saw it, and because you're playing a different title, are showing me a new corner of it. And dude, I'm thinking part of my winter diet is going to be adding a second movie to chew on, because getting this on the table, it reappeared in a new light, man. So right on.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I'm a little bit jealous for you, if you get a second box, is like you can then switch up killers and maps, which I think is something that I would find very fun to do. You know, just battling the Strangers in an asylum. Woo, that sounds like it would like a fun go. You know, one of the great things about this game, I think that the ability to switch stuff makes it very, very worth every penny. I guess it's a great value for a game.
Now you're seeing one of the reasons why this was, when it launched, a big hit and continues to be. And now it's back on the marquee at my house. This has been the Lord Chief Rocka #1 in Starkville, Colorado. And
let's go to R in Laramie, Wyoming.
That's right. Windblown Wyoming, where there's nothing to do but hear the eaves rattle and wonder when that machine is coming for you. But in the meantime, brother, I appreciate you. May you fight long and well.
Thank you. Thanks for turning me onto it, and thanks for walking me through it.
Right on, bro. Adios. So if I'm following the online tabletop chatter correctly, it looks like Final Girl recently became the first solo-only board game designed to break the Board Game Geek Top 100. Congrats to the team at Van Ryder Games for that one. I also raise a bruised fist for all the Final Girls out there. Those few days of feverish play in October already feel like part of another life. In November, a new life acquired me when I A, lost my biggest paying freelance contract, B, injured myself pretty badly, C, decided that this old house I bought during COVID was simply too much for a city boy and his many daydreams. This was why I spent Thanksgiving alone. I felt locked into an economic blood sport arena that I accidentally helped design. The thought of small talk around a Thanksgiving table was excruciating. The only thing I could think about was the game clock of my life hitting the 2-minute warning and realizing there was only time for big downfield plays. So fair warning, here comes a fairly sobering and poignant drink of the week. Skip to track of the week if you don't like hearing about personal stuff.
Bitch, I kicked it, yup, I kicked it. Come on, you couldn't bang with this if your name was Genghis Khan.
I usually spend about 95% of my time alone these days, so finding myself at pleasant gatherings with people I like is always a huge shock. That's what happened last year when my buddy Hurricane 75 from high school visited me last Thanksgiving. I documented that in episode 84, Enough Thanksgiving Board Games to Make You Puke is the title of that one. I also went to the friendly local game store with a 9x13 glass baking dish full of sweet potato and bacon hash. Stayed all day, had 4 plates, played a ton of games with nice people. What's changed since last fall? My perspective and circumstances have flipped. Every day I feel like I have to find a seam of dramatic personal reinvention through a completely fucked and tangled world. Not even my closest confidants seem to understand the picture of the battlefield I keep drawing for them. So I share it less and work on it more. Everybody wants to start offering tactical advice. I tried all that, I try to explain, and this is the outcome. So it's time to try something different. On Thanksgiving Day, I got a text inviting me to the game shop for their Friendsgiving, and I just shot back a quick emoji. I was riding out a panic attack thinking about what the stack of hand-lettered signs on my kitchen table really meant. Investor home, value $225K, rehab $49K, price $133.5K. At the bottom, there was a number to a prepaid phone I bought just for this purpose. I had a strategy, but I had to overcome the jitters. Once you start this, your little bachelor life is going to be upended, my friend. That's what I kept saying to myself. But I got out there. There are now signs pointed at the gas pumps at the Exxon station where Texans queue up with their $250,000 caravans of leisure hardware, fresh off Raton Pass and badly in need of beef jerky. Another sign points at the Tesla charging station. Another one at the Walmart parking lot turn-in, and so on. I should have this town blanketed before Christmas. We'll see. The house looked different when I got back. Didn't feel like a home base. It was revealing itself to me as it actually was, a sinking freighter from which I had to craft an effective launch. No cargo looked more poignant than the stacks of board games from the old days that I brought down here 5 years ago. I've been doing nothing but dusting them off once a year. I thought maybe the inherent magic of these boxes had the power to summon new versions of the people I see when I look at them. Genevieve, Zeke, Puka, Gavin, Carlos, Jay, Becca, Carrie, Sergey, Mike, Christian, Tweak, Peter, Matt, Dylan, Jeremy, Katrina, Thomas, Doug, Nathan, Bridget, Justin, Jake, and Jason. There's just not room for all these people in my escape capsule. I stacked them and dusted them for the last time, snapped a pic and sent it to a local buddy with the text, "Let's discuss your Christmas present." Then I sat on my couch and decided to permit myself a good cry. Maybe I was too dehydrated or something, or maybe my senses were just too keyed up, so all I could do was make a dumb, dry crying face for a minute, then I got on to the next thing, which is track of the week, thankfully.
Bitch, I kicked it, yup, I kicked it. Come on, you couldn't bang with this if your name was Genghis Khan.
So why don't we wrap this up with some pure evergreen joy? Does that sound good? I'm going to assume that you already know the stature of De La Soul, and if you're my people, the sublime beat-making ability of British duo Mint Royale, whose big beat era stuff I've listened to a lot in recent years, particularly the champagne exuberance of their 1999 LP, On the Ropes. I loved big beat because it felt like an extra lap with the things I loved most about golden era hip-hop. Big beat producers must have felt the same way because golden era MCs turn up all over UK techno records in the 90s. Prodigy got Cool Keith in the lab to drop some verses. The Propellerheads tapped De La and the Jungle Brothers for their slick and pulse-pounding Decks and Drums and Rock and Roll LP. And Posdnous shows up again in Show Me by Mint Royale, which was dropped in the early 2000s. Check it out.
Here comes my boys, plug 3 and 2. My name's plug 1. I'm here to do the job that you expect of me. Baptized to rap and open eyes daily to know how. Supervision, the incision of the soul, and color smile across your face for life.
guest shot here, Posdnous has modulated his more dense and tricky tendencies to mesh with that simple conversation between the kick and snare. It's what Mint Royale weaves in between that I keep returning to, like that faintly melodic, syncopated pulse. Can you hear it? And of course, the big obvious payoff is the sample of what sounds like an African choir. They tease you with it just a bit, then wisely let it run and carry the chorus. Watch how it'll come back in for just a little bit in back of Posdnous's bars and then vanishes, only to blossom a few seconds later.
Here comes my boys, 1, 3, and 2. My name's Block 1, had his third son here to do. The move the heart, sort out the light low, the knots inside to be fame. Daylight, no eye to know how. Don't call smile across your face for life, but keep your arms raised. Listen to this rap alone, and I'm chock full of soul.
This is a buoyant thing built of simple, correct choices. I was cursing the sun going down too early again when this came up on shuffle and spun my whole evening back toward the light. Since Fritz is featured in this week's Game of the Week, I had him play it to get his impressions. He had this to say.
The part that sucks is that
We've reached the end of episode 105. I'm able to sit and stand with less pain these last couple days, so when I return in 2 weeks, I hope to have a report for you on my first few turns of SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which I previewed last episode. Quick look ahead beyond that, even though I'm living my life 12 hours at a time here. My final girl knock at the door adventure still awaits. Plus, you can look for a preview of GMT Games' Comancheria, The Rise and Fall of the Comanche Empire, which I found used at a good price. Between that one and SETI, I'll be at my uppermost limit of being able to learn stuff. Once again, a reminder to look at the donate page if you liked my little speech about the charm of getting things in the mail I did back in the intro. Otherwise, class dismissed. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, I remain your host and friend, the Lord Chief Rocka #1. May you fight long and well.